Hello and welcome back to another English lesson from English with Greg. In today's lesson, we're going to look at ways to remember new vocabulary in English. This topic was suggested by one of my YouTube viewers, Paula, so thank you for that suggestion. And I hope this video helps you increase your vocabulary in English or in any language. So, let's go. Hi, if you're new to the channel, I'm Greg. I do free English lessons every Friday for you to help you with your British English pronunciation and grammar. So if that is something that interests you, subscribe to my channel. So before we look at the 6 best techniques to remember new vocabulary in English, let me explain. I did my university degree in French. I lived in France for 1 year, and in that year I started to learn Spanish in French, and I actually reached a C2 level of Spanish in 3 years from knowing nothing. So believe me, I know some pretty effective techniques to remember new vocabulary in English or in any other language. So I'm going to share with you the techniques that I used to help me learn French and Spanish to a C2 level. So, technique number 1 is this. What does it sound like? If you hear a new word in English, try to think of a different word that it sounds like, that you can associate the new word with. This other word doesn't have to be an English word. It could be a different word in your language. It could even be a different word in a different language you speak. I did this all the time because I learned Spanish in France. So all the translations that I was given were in French. So I often associated a Spanish word with a French word, or sometimes an English word, or sometimes an Italian word, because I was also learning Italian at the time. So a few examples of what I did. Porteria. Porteria, like in football, porteria. I thought, that's like la porte in French. Porte, which is door, which is kind of similar to a goal. Porteria. Mi primo is cousin in Spanish, and I remember associating that word with primero, first. Primero, primo. So when I was trying to think of the word for cousin, I knew it was similar to primero. And I specifically remember using this technique when I was talking about my cousin in Spanish. Another example I used was tengo vergüenza, which means I am embarrassed in Spanish. Vergüenza. When I learned that word, I had just visited a friend of mine who lived in a town called Sigüenza in Spain. Beautiful town, and I associated vergüenza with Sigüenza because they sounded more or less the same. Tengo, what was that town I went to? Sigüenza, vergüenza. Tengo vergüenza. Great. It worked so well. So some examples of things that you might associate in English. Widow. Okay, a widow is a woman whose husband has died. She is a widow. So you might think widow. Widow. It sounds like window. Window. But without the N. Window, widow. Okay, associate those 2 words, and the next time you want the word widow, you will think, ooh, I know it sounds like window. Widow. Some people have a more visual memory and it can help them even to draw a little image or visualize an image. Perhaps you could visualize an image of an old lady looking out of her window with a sad face, wearing black. If you have that type of memory, then that's also a really effective method to remember new vocabulary in English. Achoo, sneeze. Okay, to sneeze. You might think sneeze sounds like knees. Knees, your knees. Head, shoulders, knees and toes. Knees just with an S at the front. Knees, sneeze. Okay, this for me was such an effective technique. Such an effective technique that if you aren't doing this already, start doing it now. The second technique to remember new vocabulary in English is to look for patterns. Patterns, like lots of words which have a common sound or a common ending or a common combination of letters. This can really help you. I mean, if you're learning some past tenses in English and you say, okay, yeah, the past of walk is walked, the past of ask is asked, okay, I get it. The past of think is thought. Okay, yes, it's weird, it's crazy, it's totally irregular, but it's not the only verb that acts this way. The past of think is thought, the past of teach is taught, the past of bring is brought, the past of buy is bought. So learn all those words together. And if you learn a new word or a new tense in English, just think, that acts the same as that. Teach, taught, acts the same as think, thought. So if you look for patterns in different words, it can really help you remember them. And it can also really help you pronounce them well too. Like could, if you learn that there is a silent L in could, brilliant. But learn the fact that there is a silent L in would and should too. Could, would, should. Boom, done. 3 words that you've learned correctly at the same time. Another way we can look for patterns is by looking at the ends of words. For example, a lot of English words end with the letters or the sounds able, able. A lot of words end shun, shun, with this combination of letters. And a lot of English words end with ism, ism. There are many more examples, but words that end like this often have the same root, like the same first part of the word, as many European languages. The only thing that changes is the accent, the way we say it. Let me give you some examples. Corrección in Spanish is correction, correction. Nation in French is nation, nation. Multiculturalismo is multiculturalism, multiculturalism. So, you learn one word, like turismo is tourism, then also think, all right, there's a lot of words in Spanish which end ismo, ismo is ism, so look for different words which follow this pattern. And if you do, it's going to be much easier for you to remember all those other words which have similarities between themselves and also similarities between the English word and the word in your language. Another technique that I like to use to remember new vocabulary is to really split up the word into different parts. So let's use an example of a word I'm sure you know already. The word is unbelievable. Unbelievable. If this was a new word, it would be useful if you divided it into 3 parts. Un, which means I can't. Believe, which is the main part of the word, and able, which refers to the possibility to do something. If you start thinking of words as 2 or 3 little sections, then it will really help you to understand and remember those new words. Tip number 4 is something that I always used to do, and this is write the word down. It sounds simple, but I know a lot of people who don't do it. I mean, even in my class at university, we would learn a new word. I would always write the word down in a book. Not all my classmates did this. A lot of people think, it's okay, I'll remember. But if you write it down, you are reinforcing your learning of it. And also, what I used to do was keep reading that vocabulary. I would always revise, re means do again, vise, like vision, visualize, vise, revise, see again. Revise, that's a good way to learn the word revise. So I would always revise the vocabulary well, definitely before my exams, but I would try to revise it within 1 day of learning the words. And also, it's a great technique to learn it, not by simply writing the word, but using it in a sentence. Learn it by using it in a sentence, and if you make the sentence personal or crazy or rude, you'll find it's often easier to remember. It is. This technique also gives you the opportunity of learning 2 words at the same time, because you can use various pieces of new vocabulary in the same sentence to learn them together. For example, if you are learning the word revise, but you are also learning the word puke, puke, then perhaps you could say, I would rather puke than revise. I would rather puke than revise. And boom, you've learnt 2 words in 1 sentence. Now, I know this is really boring, but what I used to do when I was learning vocabulary in French or Spanish was, when I would write all the words down in my book, I would test myself on them. I would have a book with many pages of new vocabulary, and I would test myself, but I would make sure that I could remember all the words on 1 page before moving to the next page. If I got 1 wrong, I would learn it again, and I would do the whole page again until I remembered all the words on that page. Once I had passed the test with 100%, then I moved on to the next page and did that again. Yes, boring, but, well, it worked. Another effective way of remembering new vocabulary is to use it the next time you speak English, either in your next class or the next time you speak English with a native speaker or a non-native speaker at work. My final tip is to learn things little by little. Don't try to learn 20 new words at the same time. Just try to learn a few words every day. It's much less tedious, it's much more effective. If you can try to learn 5 new words every day, that's much more effective than every Sunday trying to learn 35 new words. So, little and often. I would really love to hear your techniques to remember new vocabulary in English. What do? How do you memorize words? How do you remember new vocabulary? Let me know in the comments, and perhaps you give me some new ideas that I've never heard, and you will definitely help other people watching this video. Okay, after you've left me your comment, watch one of those videos next. You can also get my book. That book will fix your English, and you can get it by clicking the link in the description. Thanks for being here, and I'll see you in the next lesson. Bye for now.